The only sound between us was the clinking of silverware on porcelain as the candlelight flickered, throwing long shadows across the dining table. It should have been just another quiet evening in our house, another meal between a husband and wife. But the tension in the air was suffocating. Isabel sat across from me, her gaze distant, her posture rigid. She barely touched the food I had made, her fingers tightening around her fork before she set it down again. Every few minutes, she glanced at her phone as if waiting for something, or someone. I had ignored these signs for years, convinced myself it was stress, a phase, something that would pass. But deep down, I knew the truth. Love doesn't just fade like this. Not without a reason. Finally, I broke the silence. "You're not eating." She blinked, as if snapping out of a trance, then looked at my plate. "I'm not that hungry." Neither was I. I had rehearsed this conversation in my head 1,000 times, imagined every possible outcome, some civil, others explosive. But nothing prepared me for what she said next. "Can I be honest with you, Marcus?" I looked up, meeting her eyes. She smirked, but there was no warmth in it. Then, with chilling ease, she said, "My ex was better in every way. Especially in bed. I settled for you." The words hit like a physical blow. My fingers tightened around the table's edge, knuckles turning white. I blinked, trying to process, but it wasn't just the words that hurt. It was how effortlessly she said them, as if she had been waiting for the perfect moment to wound me in the deepest way possible. I should have reacted. Flipped the table. Yelled. Done something. But all I felt was silence. A strange, eerie calm. Leaning back, I exhaled slowly. "Funny you say that," I replied, my voice even. "I've already served you with divorce papers." Isabel froze. The air shifted. "You're lying," she said, her voice unsteady. Reaching into my pocket, I pulled out my phone and slid it across the table. The email from my lawyer confirmed it. The papers had already been filed. She stared at the screen, her face draining of color. For years, I had been the dependable one, the one who made concessions, who stayed no matter how bad things got. But not this time. I picked up my fork, stabbed at my food. "You should eat, Isabel. Wouldn't want you to go to bed hungry." The silence between us was deafening. She glanced between my face and the phone, searching for a sign that this was some elaborate joke, some desperate ploy for attention. But all she found was the calm, unwavering gaze of a man who had finally reached his limit. I had spent years swallowing every disdainful sigh, every cold stare, every passive-aggressive remark. Eventually, she put her wine glass down, her fingers tightening around the stem before releasing it entirely. "You're overreacting," she finally said. I chuckled, shaking my head. "No, Isabel. That one comment, that's exactly what you meant." She sneered, pushing her plate away. "You act like I've been the worst wife ever. Like I haven't put up with you for years." "Put up with me?" I repeated, raising an eyebrow. She leaned forward, laughing bitterly. "Yes, Marcus. You think you're a saint? The perfect husband? You were so wrapped up in your work. You gave up on us long ago." I raised a hand, cutting her off. "Isabel, listen to yourself." She opened her mouth, but I kept going. "You just admitted you settled for me. That your ex was better. And now you're trying to turn this around on me?" She crossed her arms, shifting in her seat. "I didn't mean it like that." I smirked. "That's exactly how you meant it. You've been waiting for the right moment to cut deep, haven't you?" For a second, she faltered. Regret flickered across her face. But just as quickly, she straightened her shoulders, slipping back into the role she knew best. "You're making a mistake, Marcus," she said, her tone calmer now. I let the silence stretch, watching as she shifted uncomfortably. Then, pushing my chair back, I stood. "The mistake," I said, "was staying this long." Her nostrils flared. "You think you can just walk away? That everything will magically be better?" I shrugged, grabbing my phone. "I don't think it will be easy. But I know it will be worth it." She scoffed. "Do you really believe you can handle the house and finances on your own?" "My lawyer is handling everything," I said. "You'll get the documents tomorrow. Sign them or don't. Either way, I'm done." Her fingers curled around the edge of the table, grounding herself. Then, in a voice low and sharp, she whispered, "Do you really think you can survive without me?" I smirked. "Isabel, I haven't been living for years. I'm about to start." I grabbed my jacket and headed for the door. "You'll regret this," she called after me, her voice slicing through the air like a blade. I didn't look back. I paused, hand on the doorknob, and looked back one last time. "The only thing I regret," I said, "is not doing this sooner." Then I walked away. The night air hit me like a cleansing wave. The house behind me, once a home, was now just a prison of bitterness and unfulfilled hopes. I knew this wasn't the end, it was only the beginning. But for the first time in years, I could breathe. As I drove across the city, the only sound was the gentle hum of the engine. My jaw was clenched around the steering wheel, but it wasn't rage anymore. It was finality. I wasn't just driving away from her. I was driving towards something new. The receptionist hardly looked up when I checked into the hotel, the same one I had been sleeping at since I left. She had already classified me as another man fleeing something, another husband going through it. She seized my key with a knowing indifference. Perhaps that's what I was. The signs of a failing marriage were all there. And perhaps that's precisely what I had been. But not anymore. The moment I entered my room, I collapsed onto the floor. My phone vibrated in my pocket as I exhaled, sprawled across the bed. Before even looking, I knew it would be Isabel. When her name appeared on the screen, I hesitated. Pressing decline resulted in a silence more fulfilling than I had anticipated. A breaking point. The messages began shortly after. At first, they were calculated, measured, trying to make her seem like the reasonable one. "Marcus, I get that you're furious, but can we have an adult conversation about this?" I let them sit there, unopened, unanswered. "I believe you're making an emotional decision and need some time to calm down." Then the tone changed. "Ignoring me won't make everything better. This is childish. ***. Still, I didn't answer. When she saw I wasn't complying, I nearly laughed at her next message. "I don't even care anymore." Years of emotional manipulation. Years of sleepless nights. Years of apologizing just to keep the peace. Years of being treated like an afterthought. And yet, to her, I was weak for leaving. I didn't fall for it. I put my phone down, closed my eyes, and for the first time in a long time, I felt free. The following morning, I woke up lighter than I had in years. Breakfast was stress-free. No icy looks from across the table, no second-guessing my words or actions. For once, I was content. Sorting through work emails, I paused at a subject line that made me inhale sharply. Confirmed, divorce papers served. I leaned back in my chair, slowly exhaling. This wasn't just another fight. By the afternoon, Isabel would realize that. My phone rang. Once. Twice. 6 times in a row. Finally, I answered. Silence on the other end. Then a whisper. "You actually did it." Her voice was smaller than I had ever heard. "You actually filed for divorce." I didn't reply. She took a shaky breath. "Marcus, we can fix this." "Sure, we fought, but this isn't just a fight." "Isabel," I interrupted, my voice steady. She inhaled sharply. "This is the end?" I didn't hesitate. "I do." I had waited years for her to love me the way I deserved. And for the first time in our marriage, I truly meant it. "Marcus, we can work through this," she pleaded. "I know I haven't always been perfect, but isn't this worth fighting for?" I closed my eyes, letting her words settle, waiting for the doubt to creep in. But it never did. I had already fought for years. And I was exhausted. When I answered, my voice was calm. "It's not." She hadn't expected that. She had relied on my constant efforts to fix what was broken for so long. She thought I'd keep doing it. Her voice sharpened, frustration seeping through. "You think leaving will make things better? You think you'll find someone else?" "Someone who?" I smirked. "You don't get it, Isabel." Silence. "I don't need someone else. I just need someone who actually wants me." She had no reply. After a long pause, she exhaled. "Fine. Let's not make this easy." For a moment, I thought she might let go. But then she spoke again. "I'll see you in court, Marcus." The call ended. I stared at my phone for a long moment before setting it down. She wasn't going to let go. She was going to fight, not for our marriage, but for control. But she didn't realize I had already done the hardest part. I had left. The rest was just paperwork. That night, I walked through the city. The air felt different, cleaner, lighter. For the first time in years, I wasn't wasting my days trapped in a toxic love cycle. I wasn't waiting for someone to finally see me. I had chosen myself. And that was more important than anything else.